everyone, it's Emma here, and today I'm answering the question, why am I getting acid reflux all of a sudden? So I think most of us have experienced a bout of acid reflux or heartburn in our time. But if this symptom is becoming more frequent and more persistent, then we might start to wonder why. Why has this suddenly cropped up? And for me, I think it's really important to ask the question, why? Why are we getting a symptom, whatever that may be? And this can help us to inform better treatment, and often rather than just opting for a quick fix, to really understand why it's happening. Hopefully we can help to really manage that symptom longer term. So one of the first reasons that you might have started getting acid reflux is because your stomach has changed. So we're thinking here of a structural change in and around the stomach. And what happens here is that due to these structural changes, which can be a result of if we've put on some weight, if we're pregnant, if we're wearing tighter clothes, tighter waistbands and things, this may be a one-off or something that we're doing more frequently. And all of these practices can affect and give rise to acid reflux as a result of them increasing the intra-abdominal pressure. So this is the pressure inside your stomach, and that can affect the lower esophageal sphincter at the top of your stomach, and that can give rise to reflux, because that's what reflux is basically. It is the contents of your stomach, your lovely strong stomach acid, getting into your esophagus, so travelling backwards through the sphincter, which we would want to remain closed, especially when the stomach is quite full with acid and the contents of our latest meal, for example. So these structural changes are giving rise to that change in the location of the acid that's causing the acid to travel upwards as a result of this pressure that's changed within the stomach. So depending on the cause, some of the causes we've mentioned, this might be something that would naturally change again over time, or perhaps we can put some changes in there to affect that, and that would be individual depending on the likely cause. So depending on how that symptom changes, that might resolve itself. If you are looking for a kind of shorter term remedy, so as I say, if one of the causes is that change, the structure, first of all we would be thinking, can that or will that structure then revert back over time? But something like the silicone gel could potentially help in the meantime. This can be used to manage the symptoms of heartburn reflux. You can take it, just a small dash, 15 mils, and you can take it straight. You can mix in a little bit of water. We wouldn't recommend it in pregnancy. We wouldn't be able to recommend it in pregnancy. This would be something to check with your doctor if it might be suitable. But otherwise, just the other things to take it apart from medications, just take it at least an hour apart from medications. But otherwise, there's not many contraindications there. So it could be suitable just to help manage that symptom, as I say, in the short term, but considering why the structure of your stomach has changed could be an important consideration. Number 2 is you are stressed. So stress is a really, really, really common contributing cause of acid reflux and stomach dysfunction in general. But acid reflux and heartburn are often a nice indicator that your stomach isn't working as optimally as it could be. So stress has quite a direct impact on your stomach in that it decreases your stomach acid levels. So this for me is a common misconception. People often assume they have too much stomach acid, or they're told they have too much stomach acid, but actually in reality it's much more likely that we have too little, and there is physiological reasons for that, in that during times of stress your digestive system is put on the back burner. Traditionally, in times of stress, we were in a fight or flight situation. We were running, we were using our heart, our lungs, our muscles to fight or flight, and in this case your digestion is not a priority at that moment in time. Nowadays, because stress is often longer term, this causes problems because your digestion isn't priority for a longer stretch of time. We can afford for digestion to be not quite as optimal if we're presenting, we've got something a little stressful in at work, a short-term event. but longer term it causes issues. We need strong stomach acid to break down the foods we eat, particularly strong structures, macronutrients such as protein. We need it to absorb all our key nutrients, and we need it to support the balance of bacteria in and around our stomach and beyond. So if your stomach acid isn't strong enough, that can cause problems, and this stomach acid can actually the stomach acid levels can cause havoc with this lower esophageal sphincter. So this is what's giving rise to your acid reflux. If naturally when you would eat, your stomach would fill up with stomach acid. So if your stomach acid levels aren't high enough as a result of stress, then your stomach may not signal to your lower esophageal sphincter to close. That is a signal for it to close and to stop the contents from rising back. So if your acid levels aren't strong enough, that signalling may be somewhat affected. So that's just something to really consider. Obviously, stress is very individual, depends on what's going on and how you're able to manage that. So that's a totally different subject. But what you can do to help override this physiological response is introduce something like digestive bitters. Bitters are perfect for helping to signal to your stomach that it needs to go into action. And again, this comes from traditionally when we would always start a meal with something tasting bitter, and that signal is still apparent today. So if you don't have fresh bitter leaves or anything to hand, the yarrow tincture, for example, is a herbal bitters, and that can be a really lovely one to introduce at the start of meals. So just 5 to 10 minutes before meals in a small splash of water, only 5 to 10 mils, so you can really taste the bitterness. And I would say to take this 3 times daily just to help to support your stomach. Number 3, I've got you are eating too quickly. So I'll go on to talk about what you're eating, but actually how you're eating is so important for supporting your stomach and helping to protect against symptoms such as acid reflux. Chewing is often one of my number 1 tips. It's so underrated. It's so easy to implement if you're able to consciously think about it, and it can make a big difference to preparing your stomach for handling and digesting your foods properly. By chewing in the mouth for at least 20 chews per mouthful, you're helping to increase the surface area of those foods, then meaning that your stomach acid is going to have an easier time of breaking down your food. So particularly if you're stressed and your stomach acid levels are perhaps struggling anyway, this is a really important step. I've also said here eating too quickly, and that can go hand in hand with stress. So perhaps we're not giving ourselves enough dedicated time to eat. Perhaps we're not sitting down, relaxing, we're on the go, we're rushing, we're stressed, and this all relates to that stress response that I've spoken about in my last point. So really sitting down, relaxing, taking time to eat will all help to support those digestive processes and switch off the stress response. Also coming into that is just what we eat as we'll go on, but certain foods are even harder to digest. So heavy proteins such as meats and things are even more taxing on the digestive system. So if it's a particularly heavy meal, meat based, then we need more time than ever. So that's just something else to consider. And another tip there is to separate your liquids, separate your drinks from your meals, just to help keep that stomach acid lovely and strong. Next, I want to touch on your timings have changed, because we read a lot about if you lie down, then you're more likely to get acid reflux. And for me, this is true to a certain extent, but usually there's some other habit there that's contributing. So perhaps you're stressed and your stomach acid levels are affected. And that the less stomach acid, the more effects it can have on that lower esophageal sphincter, as we have mentioned. But it could be your timings in meals as well. So we always say to try and eat at least 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, as naturally when you lie down, gravity is against you. So if your stomach is quite full, naturally those contents are going to travel upwards towards your esophagus. So trying to bring your last meal of the day forward by a little bit. Again, this can go hand in hand with stress. If we're really busy, family life, different things going on, and we find ourselves eating very close to bedtime, it's more likely to contribute to issues. So perhaps just trying to think about the timings and perhaps bring the last meal of the day forward a little bit as well. And my fifth point here is about diet. So very often when we're thinking of why is acid reflux suddenly cropped up, diet is very often mentioned. Now, of course, there are some more unhelpful foods, but actually with acid reflux, it's very rarely down to diet and diet alone. It's very often, as I've said, down to your digestion and how you're handling foods. And very often we start to struggle with foods that we have previously tolerated fine. So this suggests that it's our digestive functions rather than the food itself, although of course it's important to consider what we're eating. But just some cases you can read online that tomatoes or spices or things like this can get quite a bad name, and these are really healthy components of our diet, so it's not something we necessarily want to cut out unless we've been specifically advised to by a healthcare practitioner. So for me, it's more about thinking about these habits and trying to build your resilience and protect those digestive functions. So all about your bitters, your chewing, separating your water and reducing stress, so you can hopefully over time start to tolerate foods a bit better and just support that underlying digestive insufficiency. As I've said, that some foods are also going to be more helpful so those lovely bitters. Zinc-rich foods are particularly beneficial for supporting your stomach acid levels, and that in turn can potentially protect against the changes to the pressure or the lower esophageal sphincter. So again, that signal when stomach acid levels are sufficient to close the sphincter. So zinc-rich foods are always good. So some fish and seafood options, your nuts, seeds, whole grains, lots of vegetarian and vegan options available there. Or of course a zinc supplement. Zinc can be taken alone, perhaps up to 15 milligrams daily, or it can also be found in our balanced mineral drink as well. Last but not least, I just want to very quickly touch on medications. So we have stomach specific medications or just any medications in general. If you're on these medications, I would urge you just to look at the side effects in case this could be having, it could be an associated side effect, especially if it's quite suddenly cropped up after being on some stomach medication. So something like your PPIs can help in the short term, but longer term, if they're driving stomach acid levels down very low, then potentially this could be affecting that sphincter, that process that I've spoken about previously. So that's just another one to consider if this is a new symptom and you're trying to cover all avenues to just determine what might be contributing. Hopefully that helps everyone. As always, please do leave any comments or questions below. I will make mention of any products I've mentioned in the description. Please also do subscribe to our Evogo YouTube channel and also hit the bell icon so you will be notified of any new videos from myself and our other experts here at Evogo. Thank you, take care.